Kentucky at 4-6. A really abysmal year for them. I had them going 8-4 preseason, and yes, I was higher on them than most. I definitely could have seen like a 6-6 year. They're not going to get there unless they win this game, and I'm going to let you know right now, I do not predict that. Kentucky is getting 20.5 points, so they're getting less points than Florida with a third-string quarterback. That tells you how bad it's been at Kentucky this year. That is abysmal. The over-under here is 47 points. So I think they're seeing a defensive struggle somewhat. I think obviously Texas will put up points in this game, but definitely seeing a little bit of a defensive struggle. So Kentucky on the year only averages 19 points a game. That is 116th in the country. They are really bad offensively. 4.8 yards per play, 113th in the country. Third down percentage converted, 37.5%, 82nd in the country, 3.9 yards per rush, 88th in the country, 6.6 yards per pass. That is 101st in the country for Kentucky. And a QB sack percentage of 9.09% allowed. That is 115th in the country. And that is with a mobile quarterback in Brock Vandagriff. Honestly, that is his best trait, is his mobile ability and his physicality. Defensively, they are still a solid football team, and that's why the over-under, I think, is so low. 20.8 points per game, 26th in the country. 5.5 yards per play, 69th in the country. Third down percentage allowed, 42.72%, so not great. 88th in the country. 43rd in the country, yards per rush at 4.0 yards per rush, 8.5 yards per pass. So their secondary really struggles, 117th in the country, and a sack percentage of 9.46%. So 9th in the country at getting after the quarterback. And guys, I will say this about the SEC. Almost all these teams are like top 30 in getting after the quarterback. It's insane how good they are across the defensive lines of scrimmage. It really is. So Brock Vandagriff on the year in 10 games, 57.8% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. This is what is so dangerous about the transfer portal. This guy was heralded as maybe he just had to sit at Georgia because Carson Beck's there, and no offense, Carson Beck's had a bad year, so maybe that was a sign of things to come for Brock Vandagriff. But you pay him, reports are upwards of $1 million, and this is the type of production you get. That's really pathetic. You see what DJU's doing at Florida State as well. So it's been a big problem with these transfer quarterbacks. Gavin Wimsatt is also a transfer quarterback from Rutgers. In 7 games for him, 40% completion percentage, 2 touchdowns, 1 interceptions. Now that's only on 30 attempts, but that's still bad. He's not an accurate guy. If you look at his numbers at Rutgers, he still didn't have a great completion percentage. Neither of these quarterbacks are very good passing the football. Brock Vandagriff does have a strong arm. He is mobile, but I really don't see many positives from him because he will throw you the football, and the offensive line is terrible. The offensive line is probably the worst unit on this team. I think it's even worse than the quarterback room. So I just don't see much here offensively or even with the with the quarterbacks they have to exploit Texas. And I don't think you can. I think Texas' strength is the secondary. So I think he's going to have a terrible game. I think you're going to see multiple turnovers. From either one of these guys, actually. Running back-wise, they do always have a good running back. Ray Davis last year, so on and so forth. Benny Snell a couple years ago. They have Jamarion Wilcox and Demo Sumo this year. Jamarion Wilcox averages 6.9 yards per carry on 69 carries. He has 2 touchdowns. And then Demi Sumo, 4.6 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns on 109 carries. Both really good players, both going to play in the NFL. But again, running behind dreadful offensive line with bad quarterback play is not a good combination. They have made the most of it, in my opinion. They've done what they could. I feel bad for them, but it is what it is. They're not on my football team. And then this is the most depressing thing for me. Wide receivers, Dane Key and Barian Brown are their 2 best. Barian Brown has 26 catches. Guys, there were rumblings that Barian Brown could have jumped in the transfer portal and transferred to Texas, transferred to Georgia, transferred to any one of these teams. And guys, he could have been like a 2nd-round pick. I really believe that. And with these numbers and what I've seen on tape, he's probably going to be like a 4th or 5th-round pick, unless he just destroys the combine. And it's because he stayed at Kentucky. And this is the sad sign of someone that stays loyal to a program and what happens. They failed this kid. They really did. 26 catches, 307 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not a great year at all. Dane Key, I believe the transfer from UAB, has had a good year. 44 catches, 686 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So good decision by him to transfer in. Barian Brown should have transferred out, though. So not very good from Barian Brown there or Kentucky. Fasusi is back on the menu, Dan. We talked about that. Texas could win this game like 13-3. I think we'll put up more points than that, but yeah, I mean, that is definitely a possibility, Dan. That is definitely a possibility. That could definitely happen. So defense, they're still really good. They have a guy at each level that's going to play in the NFL and be probably a high level NFL player. Pop Dumas Johnson, the transfer from Georgia, 54 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. He leads the team in tackles. He's been really good for Kentucky. Deion Walker hasn't had a great year statistically, but he was all SEC prior to the year preseason wise, and he's going to go very highly in the NFL draft. He's a guy preseason had most people mocked him in the first round, late second or early second round. I still think you're going to see for late first round, early second round. This guy's a freak. He's like 6'7", 300 pounds of pure muscle. He's going to kill the combine. J.J. Weaver at the outside linebacker position, 5 sacks, which is first on the team. He's a really good player, an NFL player as well. And then Teron Nichols, 5 passes defended at the cornerback position. He's probably their best cornerback. So you have a guy that I just mentioned at basically every level that's doing work at a great level, and they always have good defensive players. That's the difference between like the Big 12 and the SEC guys. Kentucky's equivalent in the Big 12 is like Baylor. Baylor doesn't have 4 high-level NFL players. They might have a year where they have a Terrion Bernard who's on the Bills now and killing it, but they don't have 4 Terrion Bernards, and that's the difference. So Kentucky, 20.5 points. The problem is if their offense was just average, guys, I'd probably take Kentucky. Their offense is abysmal. Keys to the game here. I think it's pretty simple for Kentucky. You're going to play keep away. You're going to do what you did versus Ole Miss. That was 42 minutes of time of possession for Kentucky in that game versus Ole Miss. 42-18, and they won that football game. What's crazy is that doesn't always translate. LSU had 42 minutes or 41 minutes versus Florida, and they lost by double digits. So even if you do it, doesn't mean you're going to win the football game. It will keep you in the game. It will keep you within 2 scores. And honestly, that's their only way to cover. So they have to keep the ball. How do you keep the ball? You convert on third downs, which they're not great at doing offensively. You stop people on third downs, which they're not great at doing defensively. And you don't turn the ball over. They do none of those things well. None of them. So Texas should blow them out. This should not be a close game. The only way it's a close game is if something bad happens, like an injury or something of that nature. We just completely, down our leg, 4 to 5 turnovers. Even then, I still think we win the football game, but just don't blow up Texas. Be consistent in this game. Be good in this game. That's all I'm asking, and I think they will be. I'm going to take Texas in this game 41-10, so I would take Texas minus 20.5. I would also take the over here. I think that's a little bit too low. I honestly think if Texas wanted to, they could probably score 48 points, and that pushes you over. I think Kentucky will score. It would not surprise me if we turn the ball over, give them a short field, and they score a touchdown or a field goal off of that to give them three of the 10 points or 7 of the 10 points. But I think Texas is just too dominant of a football team for Kentucky. I don't think Kentucky's a very good team this year. In my SEC power rankings on the SEC channel, I had them as the second worst SEC team, and I think they're on their own tier with Mississippi State. I think they're that bad. I think them and Mississippi State are by far the 2 worst teams. And honestly, it's kind of unacceptable with the talent they have on defense. This should have been a bowl team with the defense they have. I really believe that. So Mark Stoops probably should get fired. Wow, 41 points. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to get worn down. What I think you're going to see is like 14-0 at halftime, and then I think they're going to get worn down, realize their offense can't do anything, and they're just going to put up a ton of points. I could be wrong. I could be believing too much. And Dan, a lot of that comes into I think the defense will probably score a touchdown. And I think they'll also give us probably one of our drives offensively to a short field, which leads to a score as well. So like 14 points accredited to the defense here. But I'm gonna stick with it. I've been decent at picking Texas on the spread this year. I think I've only missed 2 games. The rest, the over/under, I have not. I don't think I've been good at all. So don't trust me on that, but I think you can trust me on this one. I took them versus Florida to cover. I'm going to take versus Kentucky to cover. I was wrong on Arkansas. I said 14. It was 13.5, so I was wrong there.